Guyana, positioned on South America's North Atlantic coast, is currently home to a population of less than 1 million people. Life in this developing nation may not be fast-paced, but the country is on the verge of economic transformation because of its untapped natural resources, notably in the oil and gas sector. The only English-speaking country in South America, Guyana is an integral part of the Caribbean region. The headquarters of the regional body CARICOM is located here. The country's capital, Georgetown, is the hub of all commercial activities. A historical and bustling reminder of such is Stabroek Market, a source of local produce and commerce. The Bank of Guyana, located in downtown Georgetown, serves as the country's central economic zone. In recent years, Guyana has built and maintained healthy relations with countries around the globe, including the Federative Republic of Brazil. But how much do Guyanese know about this existing relationship? And what do Brazilians know about their neighbor, the only one that speaks English in the Latin American region?
This is the first time I'm hearing about this anniversary. I didn't know we've been harboring relationships for so long. I'm excited about the bridge because I would love to drive over to Brazil sometime. And I think it might boost business both ways. Between Brazil and Guyana.
Apart from being our neighbor, I think that we having a relationship would be good for us, right? Because the culture, this one, and then it could bring a lot of tourism, you know what I mean? So, on being a South America giant could offer a lot to us.
O que você conhece sobre a Guiana?
Bom, eu conheço só a Lete, né? Que às vezes a gente vai lá, nós fomos 3 vezes lá para comprar ali nas lojas. E só ali mesmo, não conheço mais nada assim.
Olha, a Guiana eu conheço pouco, porque quando eu fui a Guiana antigamente, com a minha mãe e meus pais eram vivos ainda, íamos a tratamento de saúde, porque tinha bons médicos vindo da Inglaterra naquele tempo, e procurávamos um hospital que tinha lá, da Miss Lois. Não sei se ainda existe esse hospital. Era muito conhecida por Miss Lois. E era na antiguidade. O estado aqui era muito pequeno, ainda era muito deficiente da parte médica, da parte medical, né? E procurávamos os médicos ingleses que tinham na Guiana Inglesa, ainda no tempo da Guiana Colônia.
Eu não conheço muito sobre a Guiana, sorry, mas espero eu que lá tem várias coisas bonitas, vários lugares bonitos.
Queremos um dia ir lá conhecer pessoalmente, fazer compras, porque falam muito bem das roupas, das coisas que são baratas lá. E é isso, as maquiagens principalmente. Meninas, vocês já sabem, né? Comprar maquiagem, vocês já sabem.
Diplomatic relations between the South American states were established on August 26, 1968, when then Guyana Prime Minister Ptolemy Reed visited Brazil. From then until now, bilateral cooperation between these countries has spanned a broad range of areas including culture, trade, health, agriculture, border marker exercises, road transport and security.
At the national level, we try to ensure, one, that we pay close attention to our borders, and in paying attention to our borders, we take into account the interests on both sides of the borders. And so there's extensive cooperation in relation to health, animal health, sanitary and phytosanitary problems, malaria eradication and the like. So that is another level. Over the years, there has been a move from the political, which is evident at the level of multilateral, regional and international, to trade arrangements. Two neighbours ought to find mechanisms for exchanging goods and services.
The Honourable Carl Greenidge, Guyana's Vice President and Minister of Foreign Affairs. Meanwhile, the principles pursued by Brazil of multilateralism, peaceful dispute settlement, and non-intervention in the affairs of other countries can be accredited for its own successful foreign policy.
Brazil has a long history of very good relations with our neighbours. We have 10 neighbours, and we pride ourselves in being a good neighbour. We have something unique in our history if you compare to countries with so many borders. And this unique feature of our relations with our neighbors, that we negotiated all these borders when there was an issue to be negotiated, of course. So we have made a serious effort, especially at the end of the 19th century, the beginning of the 20th century, to be in peace with our neighbors in such an important issue as borders. There is, I think, a very sympathetic view of Brazilians towards Guyana and its people. It's true that those relations are stronger in the north, close to Guyana, but I think that in general, Brazilians feel good about our Guyanese friends.
Brazil is the largest country in South America and the Latin American region. It is the world's 5th largest country both by geographical area and its population size. So with such supremacy, what can Guyana offer to Brazil? Executive Director for Economic Cooperation and Global Trade Investment in Guyana's Foreign Affairs Ministry, Raul Lucas, reminds that Guyana's geographic location is ideal for Brazil to further advance its trading abilities.
Brazil itself has an economic interest in developing some of the infrastructure in Guyana because of the economic value it has for its northern territories, particularly the 3 that I mentioned, Amazonas, Roraima, and Para. So Brazil, since 1982, we had agreed with Brazil that we should bridge the Takutu River. That has not necessarily translated into the economic boom that we had hoped it would translate itself into, partly because we do not have the kind of robust infrastructure that could enable traffic to move between the two endpoints.
There are opportunities for us to tap into Brazilian distribution networks for our products. I think the next step has to be for our private sector to go to pay a visit to Brazil. I mean, this is something that has to be organized. We have to also establish whether or not the private sector is interested. We think that based on discussions that there is a growing level of interest in doing business in other countries.
As part of efforts to ensure that both countries enjoy the benefits of trade, due consideration is being given to the installation of the necessary infrastructure, especially to link the two countries. On November 16, 2016, the Inter-American Development Bank, the IDB, released an initial market study on the Guyana-Brazil road and port link. The results showed that the project is viable for trade between Guyana and the state of Roraima in terms of the transportation of container cargo. According to the results, the projection for operations to begin is 2023, while the forecast horizon is 2043. During a visit to Brasilia in June of 2017, Minister of Public Infrastructure David Patterson agreed that the two sides would work on a joint approach to the engineering design for the Mabura Hill to Lethem portion of the road.
The next formal meeting is at the end of October, and it's expected at that time that Guyana would have in place a consultancy for the Phase 1 road, as well as the Guyana and Brazil teams will have a group set up to look at the second phase of the road.
The road will serve both Guyana in terms of connecting Guyana better, and as well as Brazil in terms of making Brazil more connected to the world. But the road will also, I think, facilitate trade between the two countries, because the cost of doing business with Brazil needs to be reduced over time. And I think that right now you have a road that requires a transit of between 9 to 12, 13, 14 hours depending on its state. And of course at some points it's virtually impossible, as we saw recently. Once a highway is complete, the journey should be between Linden, for example, and Lethem should not exceed much more than 4 or 5 hours.
For cooperation in the area of air transport, the Guyana-Brazil Air Services Agreement was updated on June 28, 2017, after being agreed on more than 40 years ago. Both Guyana and Brazil have for years engaged in stimulating economic and political dialogue through the promotion of cultural diplomacy.
We have around 150 students here learning Portuguese, and now we have students from public schools, and teachers and students, they are learning Portuguese. And we have the commercial sector. We have a cultural sector. We organize film festivals, a big party in June. That's the Festa Junina, this is very famous. We had, in 2017, we had this party here in the cultural center. There were more than 1,000 people, so it was a big thing.
If you have not yet experienced this cultural explosion, be sure to try it next June. A Guyana-Brazil Group and Consular Corporation was established on November 17, 1993. The group was primarily created to address matters relating to the effects of the increase in the movement of goods and people across the Guyana-Brazil border. Boa Vista, being the closest city to Guyana, is a hive of activity.
We were told that there are lots of Guyanese there, but their passports have expired. They're in the country illegally. And they were sort of scared of coming forward. So we're trying to bridge that gap in getting them to understand that we're here to help you. And in helping you, you would be able to legalize your status here, you know, because a lot of them would have kids who are Brazilian, so they need to do that. But what we found recently too is that there are Guyanese and indigenous persons working on farms, and what we found recently, they've been coming forward with the person, the rancher who employs them, and they've been applying for their passports too.
Here is where Guyana intends to build a new embassy in Brasilia. A sod-turning ceremony was presided over by Foreign Minister Gunnage during a visit here in June of 2017.
You can imagine the amount of space that is there. And we are able to host events. The facility will allow for the chancery, an embassy itself. It will have residence for the ambassador, whomever that will be, and residence for other diplomatic staff.
Ambassador Talbot has spoken of the importance of convening partners in international relations and just how an embassy of Guyana will make this possible. The end of each day brings with it new hopes for Guyana, as it continues to build relations with its neighbours in the region as well as further abroad as the world looks on. The discovery of oil and gas resources offshore Guyana will of course have an impact on the future, on relationships and partnerships that already exist as well as those that are now being developed with states around the world.
We have had our share of mistakes, and now we also have something to improve from that basis, and I think Guyana could benefit from this. So something we are offering to Guyana is a cooperation so that Guyana could improve its regulatory framework for oil and gas.
Given that Brazil has extensive experience in this regard, not perhaps extensive in time, but a capacity to work one of the largest basins in this part of the world, and probably it may well be that the Guyana-Suriname basin will now exceed that basin in Brazil, which lies on the salt. Brazil has the capacity to work with us in terms of governance, assistance in the governance arena, which they have offered, as well as assistance by way of exploration and production, that is drilling. Petrobras, of course, is the major arm of the Brazilian state and the Brazilian economy, and we had asked whether they would be willing to have a look at our needs with a view to clearing the way for Petrobras to come and decide where they might best operate.
By 2020, we intend to see great revenue from oil. What can all of this do for the people of Guyana? We can build our roads, we can take care of our healthcare system, our education system, we can ensure that our very young and elderly are protected, and all groups are protected. And so we hope to have plans to benefit the people, and we are working with the World Bank and the Inter-American Development Bank now to design the framework for how this money is going to be saved in the sovereign wealth fund and how it is going to be spent to ensure infrastructural and social benefits for the people.